Okay, we will go ahead and get started. No problem if people are still dialing in and joining us late. I just want to say thank you all so much for tuning in today to our Million Women Mentors Leadership Circle webinar. So while this has been an annual tradition where we share some of the key efforts that are happening across the various sections of the MWM movement, I'm certainly aware that during this particularly unique time, many people are probably starting to feel the effects of virtual and webinar fatigue. So I can't even tell you all how much we appreciate your continued interest in and dedication to this movement. We are so excited to share today some of the important work that has been happening and continues to happen in 2020. So as always, we hope that people are staying safe and healthy during this time, and we are continuing to pursue these efforts to make sure that more women and girls have opportunities to show their confidence and interest in STEM careers and leadership opportunities. Just some notes, we are going to be recording this webinar, so you will be able to see the slides afterward. We will share them in a follow-up communication, including contact information for anyone that you might want to follow up with or learn more from. We will also have some follow-up and next steps, and the webinar will be posted to our YouTube channel and shared out as well. So if you miss anything or you want to share it with your networks, we certainly welcome the opportunity for you to do that, and we welcome questions and feedback as well. So with a renewed focus on virtual work and learning and an additional imperative these days to focus more intentionally on diversity and building cultures of inclusion, 2020 has really made the work of Million Women Mentors even more critical. So given the loss of many of the programs and places where women have experienced mentoring and role models in their day-to-day lives, through school, through after-school programming, through post-secondary institutions and early career workplaces, it is even more important now that we find ways to continue our mentoring work through virtual channels. And of course, safely through social distancing opportunities. So today we are going to hear from several leaders across this movement about how they are adapting to the changing times and continuing to impact the lives of women and girls around the world. So as always, I am eternally proud of and impressed by the work that is happening by this dedicated and talented group, and cannot wait to hear from everybody today. So before we jump into that really quick, I do just want to let people know of one really exciting development that we've had recently. So we have just been launching and continue to launch our ongoing efforts to improve the Million Women Mentors website. So if any of you have seen, if you visited the site recently, we began debuting our new facelift, so to speak, in the fall. And in recent weeks, we have added additional pages to the website just to make it easier for you to find what you are looking for. So whether you're a state volunteer, a new mentor, a company beginning a mentoring program, or anyone else who is working within our movement, we've created opportunities for you to find what you're looking for just a little bit more easily. So we've reorganized the resources page to help you find documents, webinars, videos featuring best practices and mentoring, training guides, getting started aspects. And we've also been adding to our news page just so that you can see the times that Million Women Mentors has been mentioned in the news. When any of your work has been featured, those are pieces that we're going to be sharing there. In addition to adding, additions to the states pages, the corporate pages, we'll be sharing corporate profiles about some of the work that has been happening with our corporate leaders. So we're really just looking for ways to make sure that this website is serving you. And as this does continue to be a work in progress, we hope that you'll check it out and feel free to share ideas and feedback for how we can make sure it's robust enough to meet the needs of this entirely vast network. We know there's a lot of different groups who have a lot of different needs, and we want to make sure the website can meet all of those. So we are so thankful, especially to our partners at Tata Consultancy Services, who have been incredible in building this site and working with us to bring this vision to reality. So as you check it out, please give us feedback. Let us know if there's something that's not working or something that you have an idea that would be great, and we can certainly look into doing that. But so that's one thing that we are very excited to be debuting right now. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Alexa, who is going to introduce our first speaker for the day.
Thank you so much, Ashley. And to echo your remarks, we are so excited about the new website, so please check it out. So if you can, as you can see, this is our agenda for the webinar. We have some really great speakers lined up, and I'm really excited for you guys all to hear what they've been doing. So first, we're going to dive in to our U.S. State Department Global MWM Partnerships with Radhika Prabhu. And Radhika, if you want to take it away.
Thank you so much, Alexa, and thank you, Ashley. My name is Radhika Prabhu, and I serve as the Executive Director of the U.S.-Pakistan Women's Council at the State Department and Senior Advisor to the Assistant Secretary on Women's Economic Empowerment in the Bureau of South and Central Asian Affairs. It's really wonderful to be part of STEM Connector's global growth story and the community that you've assembled, so thank you. Before getting started on our specific initiative, I wanted to provide some framing for why these efforts are so important in Pakistan, the country that I'll focus on today. Women have always played a pivotal role in Pakistan's politics, economy, social development, and culture. Women like Benazir Bhutto, Pakistan's 11th Prime Minister and the first female Prime Minister of a Muslim-majority country, or Dr. Sarah Qureshi, a mechanical engineer and pilot who's developed a contrail-free airplane engine and other technology that converts airplanes' jet streams to rainwater, eliminating a significant source of air pollution. Or Roshana Zafar, a development economist who started Kasha Foundation, one of the country's first microfinance institutions, and has lifted hundreds and thousands of families in Pakistan out of poverty. Pakistan is undoubtedly richer as a result of their contributions, and their stories illustrate a broader truth, that the world is stable, more secure, and prosperous when women are afforded an equal opportunity to participate and thrive. We know that in economic terms, the windfall gains from investing in women and girls are immense. We don't have to look any farther than our own backyard to understand the rewards. In the United States, women's labor force participation has nearly doubled since 1950. Because of this, the economy grew by $2 trillion. When women joined the workforce in greater numbers, wages went up for everyone. Since then, women's income has accounted for most of the increase in family income. According to the International Monetary Fund, closing the gender gap in the economy could boost Pakistan's productivity and growth by 30%. At the firm level, women's leadership has been critical to business performance and innovation, problem solving, and revenue generation. In political leadership at the local level, it's been linked to community development and the prioritization of health and education programming. At the negotiating table, women have been critical to enduring peace. A study of 82 peace agreements and 42 armed conflicts between 1989 and 2011 found that peace agreements with women signatories are linked with more durable peace. Today in Pakistan, too often, women's voices are silenced and their potential stymied by regressive laws, social and cultural norms, corporate practices, ill-tuned social policy, and in some instances, violence, coercion, and threats. A number of leaders in Pakistan are working to change this. This reality hurts women in Pakistan, and it hurts the global causes of growth, well-being, peace, and security. Today, less than 22% of women work in the formal economy in Pakistan. According to the International Labour Organization, 75% of women in the workforce have no formal education, and only 25% of the women who have a university degree work outside the home. So what are we losing in terms of human potential and economic opportunity? A lot. Through the US-Pakistan Women's Council, we are working to bring Americans and Pakistanis together to address gaps in women's economic empowerment, a critical enabler of gender equality. The US-Pakistan Women's Council is a unique public-private partnership between the State Department and Texas A&M University that catalyzes commitments from the private sector, civil society, and governments in both the United States and Pakistan to advance women's economic participation in Pakistan. The initiative is co-chaired by my bureau leadership in the Bureau of South and Central Asian Affairs at the State Department, Texas A&M University President Michael Young, and the US Ambassador at Large for Global Women's Issues, Kelly Curry. Our members making commitments in women's economic advancement in Pakistan include the American Business Council, Coca-Cola, Citi, Engro, General Electric, the Hashu Group, Hum News, Indus, the Indus Entrepreneurs, PepsiCo, Procter & Gamble, Quantum Leaps, the Resource Group, S&P Global, the US-Pakistan Business Council at the American Chamber of Commerce, We Connect International, and of course, STEM Connector. Our mission is to increase women's access to entrepreneurship, education, and employment in Pakistan. Last year, we were absolutely thrilled to launch with STEM Connector the Pakistan Million Women Mentors Initiative, an effort under the council designed to connect 1 million women and girls to mentors over the next 3 years. To date, corporations in Pakistan have committed to mentor 26,000 women in Pakistan through this effort. They include Citi, Pepsi, S&P Global, Hum Networks, Zafa Pharmaceuticals, KFC, and the Resource Group. In the aftermath of COVID-19, connecting women and girls with the knowledge and sounding boards necessary to thrive in the workforce and as entrepreneurs will be all the more critical to creating jobs and the economic activity that will be critical to bolstering growth and development in South Asia. If you're interested in plugging into these efforts or represent a company that might be willing to mentor women, I encourage you to connect with Ashley at STEM Connector. You can also visit STEM Connector's newly revamped website to learn more. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Radhika. That was wonderful. We love our global expansion in MWM, and we're so excited for the future.
Likewise, thank you.
All right, next we're going to turn it over to Salvador Enriquez from Wells Fargo. Sal?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this webinar on behalf of Wells Fargo and my supervisor, Regina Hayward, the head of supplier diversity. Again, thank you so much for this opportunity. We've been working with STEM Connector and the Million Women Mentors Initiative already for 3 years. Just to give you an idea how we're doing this is I am the person that is responsible for the capacity building programs that train minority-owned companies, women-owned companies, LGBT-owned companies to grow their businesses. We partner with organizations like STEM Connector. We partner with universities that bring training to help these ladies. And the focus that we have with STEM Connector are companies that are in the STEM fields to help them grow. We have a commitment to spend 15% of our total spend with diverse suppliers at Wells Fargo. And if there's an opportunity for a contract, we will pursue it. Not all the companies that approach us have that capacity. So this is where I go in and work with these companies to help them train to pursue a contract with Wells Fargo. I'll focus in this case on the Million Women Mentor Initiative. Again, this is the 3rd year that we are training women-owned companies that are in STEM industries to help them grow by partnering them with a mentor. What is really interesting is what's happened with COVID-19 for the companies that are currently in the program or are alumni of the Million Women Entrepreneurship Initiative. It's very important to know that as these companies are learning to navigate the COVID-19 storm, we have pivoted so that our capacity building programs have gone virtual. So that has not interrupted the training that is taking place in the 8 capacity building programs that we have in place. Through the technology, what we've actually seen is companies that have the opportunity to go and participate. We've seen an increase in the number of companies, actually, that's what I'm trying to lead to. We've seen a significant number of increase of companies that are getting trained. It was sometimes cost prohibitive for a company to maybe go to Dartmouth or Stanford or go and do these in-person trainings, but because of the virtual opportunity, there has been, as I said, a significant increase in the number of companies that are getting trained. What we've also done in our training is to include access to capital training, but now it's actually been focused on helping the companies that are currently in our capacity building programs understand that the financial products that have been put out there by the federal administration to help them navigate the COVID-19. Case in point is the Paycheck Protection Plan. I'm happy to report that the companies that are in our programs have been very successful in actually securing funds through the Paycheck Protection Plan. What is really interesting here is as we're seeing reports of how some companies are having a hard time going and securing funds, the companies that are actually in our capacity building programs are seeing a higher success rate in securing these funds. And it has to do with the fact that in our capacity building programs, we are bringing subject matter experts, we are a bank, that are helping them navigate the intricacies of the Paycheck Protection Plan. And equally important, we're actually providing training on how to ensure that they understand the process of how to go from a loan to a grant. That's what is really neat about it. And so that they end up with a grant. And so our focus, I think, has been very helpful in these companies because we've also allowed for a network of companies to interact with each other and learn from those best practices. So this community of companies that are going, for example, in the MWMEI, is the creation of a community of mentors and mentees where they're actually shooting at each other different questions on how to navigate COVID-19. And this sisterhood, and specifically I'm talking about the MWMEI, what we're doing here is making sure that they're talking to each other, and we're bringing in other subject matter experts that can actually help them understand how important it is about business continuity. We are seeing, as you've seen the numbers, small businesses being tremendously affected by COVID-19. but by putting in place trainers that are able to help them keep their doors open, and also bringing the access to capital training, these businesses, I think, are better equipped than those companies that are not getting trained. Equally important, a lifeline of a small business, of a woman-owned company, of a diverse-owned company, is contracts. So our capacity building programs have in place these access to contracts training, and we're bringing in, again, subject matter experts that are giving them the training so that they could pursue and continue to grow their businesses in these uncertain times. We know, again, that contracts are a lifeline for a small, diverse-owned company. So we have these programs in play to help women better navigate the storm. Equally important, what is very unique about the Million Women Mentor Entrepreneurship Initiative that is sponsored by Wells Fargo and in partnership with STEM Connector, is the fact that we have the idea that where there's a contact, there's a contract. So we're trying to better understand what are the services and products that are being offered by these ladies that are in the program, and how we can actually recommend them with decision makers within Wells Fargo so that they could pursue contract opportunities. We are talking about also learning how to pivot. We had companies, for example, that are now selling that are selling protective equipment, or are now selling hand sanitizer because it's a natural pivot from the work that they were doing, and now are selling hand sanitizer, not just to Wells Fargo, but to other companies that we're working with. And I think that has been a learning lesson here of how important it is to ensure that whenever there is a capacity building program in place, we encourage, in this case, women business owners to take advantage of them. And it's not just at Wells Fargo, but it's with other companies. Other companies are investing a lot of money in capacity building programs. And so what we're trying to do is ensure that the word gets out that we may not have all the answers, but there are other capacity building programs that are out there that may be beneficial to the companies. And again, it is about business continuity, as well as ensuring that these women business owners survive the COVID-19, and in many cases come stronger after the storm, because they were able to retool, restore, and recover the business during the COVID-19 pandemic, where we have not seen the end of the pandemic. And so there's still many opportunities out there. And so that's what we're trying to do when we're actually creating these capacity building programs. As we're planning for 2021, I can assure you that we're looking very closely at what works and what needs improvement, in order to make sure that we are equipping the companies that are in our programs to, again, navigate not just COVID-19, but the aftermath of COVID-19. So my time is running out. So that's actually what I wanted to share with you, how important it is to bring the capacity building program into play, to mentor these women by bringing in subject matter experts, but in addition, pairing them with seasoned executives that have seen a thing or two in their lifetime, and that are able to help them steer away from the storm that we're all living through. So thank you so much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much, Sal. And if anyone's interested in that entrepreneur initiative, please reach out to us, reach out to Sal. We will provide all of the information in the follow-up email. It's a really great program, and yeah, we would look, yes.
I will end, Ashley, by saying that last year we impacted more than 750 small and diverse-owned businesses, including women-owned companies, and we're on target to do something similar in 2020, by the way. So thank you so much.
So great. Thank you so much, Sal. Now we're going to turn it over to Cindy Berkman with BP and her collaboration with Collabl and Dan Horgan. Cindy and Dan, you want to take it away?
Hello, and thank you to everyone for being here today, and especially thank you to STEM Connector for allowing BP to chime in on this important topic. First, let me start by introducing myself. If you want to advance, Dan. I'm Cindy Berkman, and I work in BP's Office of Diversity and Inclusion, helping educate and empower students and communities across the U.S. specifically focusing on girls and underrepresented minorities. I truly have the greatest job. At BP, we know that the global demand for energy is expected to increase by about 1/3 over the next 20 years. Producing the energy to meet this growth in energy demand will require cutting-edge innovation in the minds of the brightest scientists and engineers. But as this demand is increasing, the US is facing a chronic shortage of STEM skilled talent. We also realize the interconnected areas of science, technology, engineering, and math give students the building blocks and understanding for improving not only our industry, but also the systems that power our economy and advance our society. This is the real reason why BP supports STEM initiatives and organizations like STEM Connector to work collaboratively to help shape young people's attitudes and aspirations towards STEM. So for a little background, let me tell you about how BP approaches STEM outreach. If you want to advance, please. So BP has 3 strategic pillars to STEM outreach. The first is to equip teachers to excel in STEM teaching. One way we do this is to provide free best-in-class energy curriculum on our website, bp.com/STEM resources, as well as partnering with NEED, the National Energy Education Development Organization, to deliver curated energy resources through energyteacher.org, another web platform. Our second strategic pillar is to inspire and encourage students to pursue STEM pathways. For example, we sponsor the BP Global STEM Academies, which is a 4-week study abroad scholarship program for 110 students to study at one of 4 locations across the globe. Although this location, it will be digital. And our third strategic pillar is to mobilize BP employees to volunteer and mentor in their local schools and communities. We call this the BP STEM Ambassador Program. Now, ideally, our third pillar of connecting employees to schools and in communities would be done predominantly via in-person interactions. But due to COVID, this was no longer possible. Also, knowing STEM outreach is still an imperative for BP and for our world, we quickly had to pivot. You want to change the slide, please? We wanted to help parents, students, and teachers who are now homeschooling. So we created and distributed a newsletter to our key educational partners, connecting them to our free online STEM resources and activities. Additionally, and now this is the big one, we began moving all of our STEM outreach opportunities online. We created a space for our BP STEM ambassadors to connect virtually and continue reaching students and young adults. We did this by partnering with organizations like the Girl Scouts to deliver a 4-part series of virtual STEM workshops, as well as doing activities online to help them earn STEM badges. You'll see a couple of pictures here that allude to that. We collaborated with one of our diversity partners, the National Society of Black Engineers, to produce a career mentoring panel for high school students and also serve as judges for their virtual STEM camp summer projects. One of our outstanding BP STEM ambassadors gathered a group of volunteers and reached out to his alma mater university to deliver a full day of online energy-focused engineering discussions culminating in student presentations. And I will say we have gotten numerous responses of positive accolades for this program. And I won't say lastly, but we've also had the pleasure of partnering with Dan Horgan, CEO of Collabl, on a series of career mentoring workshops and learning from leaders one-on-one mentoring sessions. So all of this is only a sample of what we've been doing, but the results have been fantastic. Our people really stepped up and embraced our desire to continue making a real impact. Over the last several months, nearly 150 employees have volunteered over 200 hours of their time in reaching nearly 300 students. We are truly proud of this response and could not have done this without our BP STEM ambassadors and partners like Collabl. Connecting our ambassadors to Collabl initiatives really helped broaden our reach, not only with students and young professionals, but also with additional diverse partners. And we are so pleased with this partnership and the results. So now I'd like to introduce you to Dan Horgan, and he will share his thoughts on some outstanding programming and how to encourage students and youth in educational and career pathways. Dan?
Awesome. Thanks, Cindy. And thanks everyone for tuning in and checking out all the great work that BP and others have been doing in this space where we have transitioned mostly to a virtual environment. I just want to celebrate again a lot of what Cindy just shared. We've had so many BP employee volunteers that step up in this time to support young people that are all different stages of their career journeys. Some just getting started in that exploratory phase, some that are getting ready to graduate from college in a time of great uncertainty, trying to figure out whether they stay the course to what they originally planned or have to pivot to something different, given our current context. And some that are just right out of school and trying to figure out how to navigate as they enter the workforce for the first time. At Collabl, our mission is to help those young people expand their networks, develop their talent, and accelerate their growth in partnership with professionals representing diverse industries, different functions, and different levels. So they get more exposure to all the different opportunities that are out there for them. They can expand their social capital so that they have a stronger professional network of advocates and allies supporting them along their journey. And at the end of the day, they build the confidence. They understand the greatness that each of them has within to be able to achieve whatever goals they set for themselves. We have essentially 3 pillars of programming. So as Cindy mentioned, Career Connections are all of our one-time events that bring young people together with groups of professional volunteers, like all the great volunteers we've engaged from BP over the last several months. Talent Accelerator is a project-based learning experience, all done virtually, where we engage teams of young people, so up to 10 young people in a squad, with groups of 4 to 6 employee volunteers from companies like BP, who support those students on giving feedback through their projects, also giving them career prep advice, whether it's reviewing a resume or a LinkedIn profile or doing an informational interview. And then Breakthrough Mentoring is our 3rd pillar, where we help those young people, once they enter the workplace, set them up for success through 6, 8, and 12-month mentoring programs. As Cindy mentioned, since the end of March when COVID hit, we have been facilitating these one-time, mostly 60 to 90-minute Career Connections events in 4 different formats in partnership with BP and a number of other companies representing diverse industries. Pathways and Perspectives is our HR panel discussion, where we bring together a team of 3 to 5 employee volunteers to coach as many young people as we can gather for the event on their career experiences and insights, the things that they wish they would have known earlier in their career to set themselves up for success, leaving plenty of time for Q&A with all of the youth engaged. Learning with Leaders is an opportunity where we've brought together employees from BP, where we connected them with young people from about 35 different organizations across the country, which again has enabled us to break down the geographical barriers and connect these employees from BP to diverse talent all across the country. It's enabled them to have one-on-one conversations or small group discussions focused on the career goals that those young people have and the supports that they need to be able to take where they are today and get closer towards their short and longer term career goals. Focus Connections is an opportunity where we dive into deeper topics like gender equality in the workplace, STEM career pathways, LGBTQ+ issues in the workplace. So lots of different topics that we can partner with employee resource groups or diversity networks on to help young people understand how these diverse topics are surfacing in the workplace and how we can create more inclusive environments for all to succeed. And lastly is Skills Lab. Every one of our programs has a skill development component. So we're focused on helping the students build their confidence in networking, help them understand how to evolve their personal brand, or how to be better at critical and creative thinking. In addition to our Career Connections events, one of the things that's been so exciting for me is to see so many BP employee volunteers come out to the one-time events multiple times, follow up with me and say, what can we do more? We want to support more young people. We want to go deeper in the mentoring relationship. So we've invited them to be part of the Talent Accelerator, which we quickly developed in response to so many summer internships jobs being canceled over the summer. Essentially, the Talent Accelerator creates a virtual internship experience, project-based learning opportunity for students to complete that helps them build their professional portfolio with the support and coaching of these professional volunteers from BP and other companies. It also sets these young people up for success by being able to explore a day in the life of an engineer or a day in the life of a marketing manager. So they can start to see if that's a path that they themselves want to pursue. So with partners like BP, I would just encourage others to don't let the programming stop. Employees are often looking for meaningful ways to connect with young people. And through these virtual experiences, I can't tell you how many both mentors and youth have followed up to say, this was exactly what they needed. A stronger sense of connection with someone whose path they may not have crossed otherwise. An opportunity to feel like they're adding value, they're giving back in a meaningful way, and can see the impact right away. And third, sometimes we also learn from those that we meet in unexpected ways. We always talk through these experiences that we must balance teaching and learning. And I've been so impressed with the BP volunteers who have responded by saying they not only gave, but they also learned a lot through the process as well. So thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the experiences that Cindy and I have had working together in such a great collaboration over the last several months.
Thank you so much, Dan and Cindy. And if anyone's interested, we will provide their contact information in the follow-up, and you can get more information about this great partnership. Next, we're going to turn it over to Sheila Boyington and Dr. Mary Hemphill to talk about the states movement and all the great stuff they have going on there. Sheila and Mary.
Thank you, Alexa, and thank you everybody who is joining in today to hear a little bit about Million Women Mentors and our state's movement, and of course all the great efforts that we have going on. So if we go to the next slide, I think we talked very briefly at the beginning about Million Women Mentors, but I always like to level set us all in understanding really our broad range components of Million Women Mentors, which includes national and now really international reach with our great work that we're doing with the Pakistan group. But it has really been a way to catalyst and get this movement going, has been what we have done really with our state's movement. Second is also really trying to create a great experience for those that are working with us on Million Women Mentors within our states, our corporate sponsors, etc. And so as Ashley mentioned, we have a lot of resources that are available on our website, and particularly as we're moving to the new one, it's even easier for you to find. But thirdly is really the deep community impact. And that's really where the states are critical in helping us to really spread the message of Million Women Mentors. And of course, since we have been in this, now this is 5.5 years since we started the movement, we've really been able to sustain and grow the conversation about the need for more girls and women to go into STEM. You probably all know 50% of our workforce is women, yet we're only 24 to 26% of the STEM workforce. As a woman engineer, that's always been one of my passions, to make sure that we're helping that next generation see how to move forward with a great career, specifically in STEM, and that it gives you the opportunity to do anything you would like to do. If we go to the next screen, as Ashley mentioned, we do have our new portal, and there are a lot of links to getting in touch with us as the state team. So this is really a great place to be that sort of central location for a lot of the different things that are going on in Million Women Mentors, and for you all to be able to connect. If we go to the next screen, I think one of the things that we have been very proud of as a team, everyone has worked really hard, including these tremendous volunteers that lead our state efforts. This is a movement, and as a movement, what we've tried to do is really aggregate the great work that's going on across the country and amplify it through our many, many social media and newsletter channels. And as Ashley mentioned, we've had tremendous pickup from that as well. And then the other piece is to advance it, to take the work that's going on in many organizations throughout the country, to help them really advance the work they're doing, connect with others, and find the synergies of great work, like you just heard from BP and Collabel, because that's really what this is about, is the boots on the grounds and getting the work done. If we go to the next screen, one of the things that we did for our Million Women Mentor state movement was to actually have some honorary chairs. This really started with Lieutenant Governor at the time, Kim Reynolds, who's now the governor of Iowa, and her recognition, and not to politicize this, but her recognition that women and girls going into STEM would overall help the economics of her state. She did champion this, and we have been so fortunate to have many, many others, lieutenant governors and governors and other really prominent leaders take on that role of honorary chair in the states. Again, they're able to use their platform to amplify our message across their state. If we go to the next screen, we certainly would be remiss if we didn't mention the tremendous number of sponsors that we have. This is clearly not all of them, but many, many organizations who have put funding and efforts into the Million Mentors effort, so that everything that's available on our website is free. It doesn't cost any organization in their state to participate. And for that, we are so ever so grateful. What's been great is we've also been able to work with many of our corporate partners to actually help us lead some of those state efforts. So you can see our great group from Wisconsin is really chaired by 3 different companies. Maine, you're going to definitely hear from Catherine Lamson from Mimic, but they took on not only being part of our Women in Insurance movement that you'll hear about in a second, but also leading the main effort. And that is just a great way to see how you can participate in Million Women Mentors. If you're at a company and you have an interest in even engaging your company, you know, these are ways that we can do that. We've had Caesars in Nevada, as well as Science Olympiad for Illinois. And of course, as was mentioned earlier, TCS has really been leading by helping us really with our website. And then you obviously got to hear about BP and their work in Texas. So again, you know, this is just a sampling of what we're doing. And again, most of our state efforts are led by a variety of volunteers, from education to nonprofits, to our corporate partners, and many, many others. So I encourage people to participate at their state level if they're interested, because whatever you do is really, really making an impact and moving the conversation and growing the need for women and girls in STEM. If we go to the next screen, every year we produce a State of the States report. Alexa helps us with that now, and it is available on our website. And what's great about this, in one page, you can see the different types of things that are going on in states that you may live in or be interested in. And also the contact information for our state leaders. Now, we don't have, you know, this is a volunteer movement, so there is flux in our state leadership, but we're always grateful when we're able to have even a short time, a piece of someone's time to help us with the movement within their state. So if you're interested in participating in one of the state movements, we'll have some information at the end of this presentation. Additionally, if you go to this next slide, you know, Million Women Mentors had a sort of a strategy pre-COVID, which was where we did really have in-person events. And last year we counted about 150 different state events across the country that actually featured some component of Million Women Mentors. And of course, we had our great summit last year where we had all of these state leaders who were able to travel to. If we go to the next screen, I tell you what we've been so excited to see is the way that post-COVID, many of our states have stepped up and said, you know what, let's do something different. And that has ranged in anything from a virtual event that we did in Tennessee for Women in STEM. We had like 80 people. Thankful to Denise Rice, who leads the Tennessee Manufacturers Association, and Lulu Copeland, one of our state chairs, for what they did with that. And of course, the Million Women Mentors team in Wisconsin had a fantastic e-mentoring webinar that talked about the needs of how to mentor, particularly in a diverse situation, and helping people to know how to do e-mentoring. And just last week, Lieutenant Governor Bethany Hall Long and I and others, including Danielle Pemberton-Hurt, the CEO of STEM Connector, actually participated in a happy hour with Delaware and featured some great young women who actually talked about how impactful having a mentor had been in their own career and their own life. So talking all about this, obviously, you know, brings me to our next slide and the introduction of Dr. Mary Hemphill. I had the opportunity to meet Mary last year when we were working on some work in computer science, and she shared with me a little bit about what her work was entailing within the state of North Carolina. And as soon as I heard what she was doing, I'm like, you need to be with us in Million Women Mentors. And we have been really very fortunate to have Gwen Blackman, who has been tremendously a leader for us. But we're really thrilled to have Mary step up and co-chair Million Women Mentors in North Carolina. And she's going to share a little bit about her work now. Mary.
Thank you so much, Sheila, and good afternoon, everyone. It is an honor to be here. I am so excited to share the initiative for the North Carolina Computer Science Department, which was enacted on last year when our state board decided that computer science needed to land in our schools. And I think that this was a bold move. As we go to the next slide, you will see that we have worked to bring stakeholders around the table, everyone from teacher leaders to district leaders, curriculum leaders, and external stakeholders, organizations, and partners around building computer science and technology education for our 1.6 million children. What I found is that we started going to schools, having conversations with parents, and other conversations with companies in North Carolina that were truly vested in making sure that the computer science pipeline was strong, is that we needed to create marketing and branding for computer science so that everyone was speaking the same language. Here you'll see an example of one of our one-pagers that myself and my team, we take to different professional development opportunities, conferences, and different meetings, which really encapsulate the core concept of computer science, what it means for a North Carolina student to graduate with a proclivity in STEM, in technology, and in computer science, and how you can get involved in this effort. As I started this work and talking with different teachers, students, and leaders in our state, I started to really dig in and do the research, understanding that less than 18% of women were getting degrees in computer science. And when we started to look at the state averages, we had even less than 10% of our historically marginalized populations and young girls going into STEM careers, taking the AP computer science exams. And so we wanted to create a bold initiative in our state that would speak specifically to females, specifically to historically marginalized populations, and specifically to those hard to reach rural counties and communities, so that their young ladies and their young men would see themselves in computer science. And so as we go to the next slide, this is how #IAmComputerScience was born. The goals for this campaign were to show our students that it is possible for them to get involved in CS careers in realistic and tangible ways. We have so many opportunities for them to get involved, even in kindergarten. Yes, we're talking about standards in kindergarten, but having that opportunity to speak that language with them, elementary, middle to high school, was an opportunity for us to elevate our campaign by featuring North Carolina individuals and entities that represented diversity by industries. We had a lot of conversations about coding and robotics, but I wasn't hearing in the schools and I wasn't hearing in table talk around computer science, conversations around cybersecurity, analytics, algorithms, data, and big data and impacts on computing. So we wanted to show our young ladies with this first iteration of the campaign that there are women who are connected to North Carolina-based organizations and industries who are living, learning, and leading in computer science. It was also very important because North Carolina, with 100 counties from the mountains to the coast, represents a diverse cadre of individuals who look very, very different. So we wanted to make sure that the individuals that we chose and the entities we chose were representative of the students that would see this campaign and be involved. So we really wanted to increase participation, not only in the CS education, but also how do you explore these careers with internships, co-ops, and externships, and then how do we implement the #IAmCS through cross-sector collaboration. So we decided to launch our campaign in a big way. And as we go to the next slide, you will see that on last October in Hope County schools, they were the first county that we started with. This is a very rural county. It has about 10,000 students. And we partnered with them to show them that they were able to take computer science and make it phenomenal for their young ladies. All of the elementary, middle, and high schools got involved. And on October 24th, we filled the gymnasium with 850 fifth graders, eighth graders, and 12th graders. We picked those gateway grades because those 5th graders going into middle school would have an opportunity to get involved in computer science discoveries. Our 8th graders going to high school and picking pathways, and our graduating seniors going into picking their career pathways was so critical. We had over 35 teacher leaders, paraprofessionals, and school leaders. We had community stakeholders, district office, and DPI representatives. And it was unlike a pep rally that you've ever seen. It wasn't for football, but it was for tech and STEM and computer science. We even had a DJ, a female DJ, and we talked about how DJing is computer science. And so it was amazing. As we were doing the conga line and the Soul Train line, at one point, I walked by a group of young ladies and she said, "It feels like I finally found my home." So to understand that being intentional to elevate efforts when it comes to diversity and being strategic to bring opportunities to rural communities was truly a goal for us as we started to bring our campaign to the forefront. On the next slide, you'll see a couple tweets that went out, and we had the opportunity to connect with the North Carolina School of Science and Math. This mentorship piece was so critical because many of the professors and teachers at this school are all female as well, but we were able to give one of our students a $1,900 scholarship that she's using virtually this summer in the Summer Accelerated program. Pre-COVID, this scholarship included housing, travel, food, and all of her coursework for 5 weeks this summer. And so really changing her trajectory. And I wish it was a video because she actually danced up the middle aisle to receive her scholarship. And then in that second tweet, these districts and these schools that participated that day spent the entire week getting their students ready with Hour of Code, using code.org materials, and really having their district office provide mentorship virtually and in person for the young ladies in all of the elementary schools. Upchurch Elementary even took it so far as to make t-shirts for #IAmCS for their young ladies. Truly, when you think about the efforts of Million Women Mentors, when you think about mentorship, and as we go to the next slide, thinking about those connections and how to really truly make a toolkit and impact. And if you click the button there, these are the 9 entities that we chose. When you think about 21st century learning and mentorship, and that's what Million Women Mentors does, it is intentional about connecting women who are doing amazing things with our students. This is what we're going to get. We're going to get 22nd century impact. And I think it's time. I think COVID has accelerated a lot in innovation. It's time to start talking about the 22nd century. The look on these young ladies' faces, that's why we are so intentional about making sure that we have volunteers, organizations, and entities who believe in the power of STEM and believe in the power of tech. And the beautiful part about it is that we're being intentional about rallying around these young ladies. In this next slide, you will see that we have created an opportunity to talk about the statistics. We want our young ladies to be intentional. Even when we did the photo shoot for this, we wanted young ladies' hands that were representative of the diversity, the beautiful diversity in North Carolina. And we used different text messages and hashtags in order to follow our brand all the way through, down to the social media efforts and the #IAmCS on Twitter and Instagram, where we have over 150 teacher leaders, district leaders, and school leaders, and 500 students who are leading the way with this. So on the last slide, you will see that when we think about what living, learning, and leading in tech and mentorship looks like, these are the faces of North Carolina. So you will see we have #IAmAI. This is about artificial intelligence. And Charlotte Dungan is the first AI architect in our state. Mariah Morris, #IAmCS Ed. She is our Teacher of the Year for the state, for her platform is Equity in STEM. Each of these young women, each of these ladies has pledged to volunteer, to support, and to mentor, to reach up and reach back into our schools. And that's what it's all about, is making intentional connections, being strategic about how we show our students success, and really anchoring it all with what Sally Ride said. She said that young ladies have to see it in order to be it. And that's what Million Women Mentors is doing for the state of North Carolina. So I'm going to turn it back over to Sheila and just thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Mary. And it's just impressive and inspiring what you're doing. Just lastly, to quickly wrap up, We Make It Count is a new national virtual event that Million Mentors will be involved with on August 18th, the anniversary of 100-year voting. the right to vote. And again, we want to highlight, while we have equality and the right to vote, we need the equality in the STEM and computer science workspace. So encourage you to see our follow-up from this webinar. And if you're interested in participating with us, we have a whole plan for that that will be coming out shortly. So thank you so much to everybody that's online for the work that you're doing. It's impressive, and I'm just honored to be part of it. Thanks, Alexa.
Thank you so much, Sheila, and thank you, Mary. And as if you can see on the screen, if you want to learn more, please contact them, and we will, of course, include all of this information in the follow-up email. And all right, last but certainly not least, I want to turn it over to our Women in Insurance initiative, and they can share all about what's been going on. Women in Insurance.
Thank you so much, Alexa. This is Margaret Ressi-Milkent. I am the very delighted chair of the Women in Insurance Initiative, and we have boldly continued our mission of action, equity, and sustainable change during this time and age of COVID-19. We've done it virtually. We've done it with a laser focus, and we've done it with celebrating all of our silver linings. Today, we want to talk to you about our momentum, and we are going to start out with data. Data has been a focus for us as we've been advancing STEM careers in the insurance industry. So we'll hear from Barbara Ingram of Verisk, our data leader. Next, we'll be talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what that means for us in the Women in Insurance Initiative. And you're hearing it here first. Dr. Lee Nunnery has joined us as our senior advisor for DE&I, and we could not be more grateful. And last but not least, Catherine Lamson, our founding member and our state's leader, will be talking about the kaleidoscope of action and activities that we've been busy with this last 4 months. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Barbara. Next slide, please.
Thanks, Margaret. Hello, everyone. This is Barbara Ingram. We're a very data-oriented industry in insurance. We use a lot of STEM. And when we wanted to think about how it is that we were going to advance the cause of women in the industry and also attract more young women into the insurance industry, we naturally went to data first. And so we conducted a survey last year to get a foundational set of facts on where do we stand in the insurance industry in terms of women's advancement. And it was really interesting to find out that that we're actually, it's kind of interesting. There are more women than men in the insurance industry. It's about 55 to 45. And as you can see from the small graph that's on this slide, women outnumber men at the lower end of the salary and rank scale. Now, what has been very interesting about, and that number drops off as you get higher in rank up to the CEO level, where we have only 21% of women represented. There was some information that came out last fall. There are other groups that track how well women are doing in various industries, and they found that the big sticking point for women was getting to be that first level manager or supervisor. What's interesting is in the insurance industry, we still have more women than men as first level supervisors. So that third stack from the left, where we see 53% of women versus 47% of men as first level supervisors in the insurance industry. So where it drops off for us is at the manager of entry level manager position. So that was an interesting finding for us, and it helps us to figure out where it is that we should be taking action. So where are we continuing? We will be continuing this data survey. We're going to conduct another one next year. So we're looking for as much participation as we can find so we can make this even more robust than it is right now. The other thing that we're very interested in is to find women who would be willing to talk to us or share their stories about how it is that they crossed the X How did you get to be that manager of entry-level manager? What worked well for you? So once again, to try and help our industry move that forward. And what is the big picture behind why we're doing all of this? Well, we're going to be facing a talent shortage in insurance in the next several years. And if we don't become attractive to women, we will not be able to attract the number of new entrants into our business that we need. So we need those STEM skills, and we need as diverse a pool of candidates as we can get. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Nunnery, and we can go to the next slide.
Excellent. Thank you, Barbara. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. And as the father of two daughters, both of whom are college educated now, yay. And one particularly who ended up magna cum laude in biology from Howard. This work is incredibly important to me. When I wrote the Journey study in 2017-18 and have now been all over the place talking about it, I realized that, particularly connecting with Margaret, Barbara, Catherine, and others, that we have a joined and if not joint journey. They're not identical when you talk about African Americans writ large and women, but they're very, very similar. There are so many parallels. In fact, in my study, 50% of the respondents were women. And so the voices that resounded through the study reflect the full diversity of this country. There are 6 determinants of success that were called out, and those determinants of success could also be equated to barriers: exposure, experience, networking, mentoring, racial bias, and gender bias. Now, you'd be surprised because in this context, gender bias, you think, might be one of the greater barriers. But in fact, those first 4 were the ones that kept being called out as being hindrances to success. And in fact, if you look at the graphic to the right, you see some very interesting anomalies, really, that in terms of unsupportive culture, in the yellow there, men thought 25% of those surveyed that was a top barrier versus 28% from women. Organizational bias, men only thought that 15% of them thought that organizational bias was the issue, as opposed to 28% of the women surveyed. And then the next 2 really blew my mind. Conflicts with raising a family. Why do men think that 44% of them, at least, felt that was in fact the top barrier, and yet only 24% of the women surveyed did? Probably a lot of different issues there, as well as the shortage of female candidates. Look at the difference. So there's a perceptual difference that, in fact, raising a family, taking care of loved ones, being sometimes the sole breadwinner, as well as in many cases, particularly in education, the one who carries the benefits package, especially during the last recession. This was really important information to start to compare with the Journey study, and we found very similar parallels. In addition, we found that acculturation, having committed champions, and for companies to establish policy statements like the ones you've just heard from BP and Collabel, et cetera, really, really important, that the CEOs, CMOs, CDOs, et cetera, have to be the ones who establish the tone. So without that, the barriers become permanent. Let's go to the next slide. And the disparity in viewpoints are really important, and there are some potential solutions and promising practices. The graphic to the left shows that answering the question, what are the top enablers for advancing women into leadership? And again, you see the differences in terms of what women respondents said versus what men respondents said, and particularly zeroing in on mentoring. That in the main, men didn't feel that mentoring from senior leaders was really an enabler. But in my study and in post-study conversations, mentoring from senior leaders was in fact very important for African American and women participants in insurance, and on it goes. So in short, I want to zero in on some solutions. I think some of it's been talked about earlier today. Earlier identification of talent in terms of looking at core competencies and roles and on-ramps, talent development programs, really bringing people up the curve through introduction, immersion, and exploration. A focused recruitment and retention, particularly in insurance, in underrepresented disciplines like actuarial science and underwriting. Metrics, measurement, and monitoring. How few companies actually report out their results is really astounding, but I think there's going to be more of a call for companies to do just that, make public their results. Stronger collaborations and alliances between Million Women Mentors, Women in Insurance, and other organizations. And lastly, more research, something I'm embarking on, particularly in supplier diversity. We want not only for women to be successful as employees of companies, but also to start their own, to become entrepreneurs, to launch into the insurance business and to grow with it, because it is in fact a very lucrative and an important part of our economy. So it's been a pleasure to join on with you and to be with you. I'm going to turn it over to Catherine next for more information on this. I wish you Godspeed.
Thank you, Dr. Nunnery. Well, I will say that it's been really an exciting adventure being part of the Million Women Mentors movement, as well as the Women in Insurance. Our state's committee is really setting an example for how corporate leaders in the insurance space can engage the Million Women Mentors, as well as Women in Insurance, across the state and become more involved in local efforts to increase opportunities for women and young men. You know, I think that each state is different. We try very hard to engage our volunteers, and for us here in Maine, we took the opportunity to create and build a volunteer committee to bring awareness, to talk about what the issues were for girls and for women. And as a founding member of the Women in Insurance group, I'm certainly passionate about what's happening in my industry. I will tell you that, you know, we did some work in the very beginning with Million Women Mentors and found that the statistics were not particularly overwhelming for women in our industries. And I will share that with you in a minute. We are working diligently to share that information, to update that information, to create a network for STEM girls and women to engage with Women in Insurance. We are working with local organizations, the Girl Scouts, the schools, and we are starting, because of our network, to become known as a group that can be called upon to assist when we're looking for mentors. We're working diligently with a variety of groups and trying to share information, not just in the state, but nationally. We are using social media to amplify and support our initiatives and the D&I initiatives. We recently participated in a social media event called Share the Mic, where we shared the stories, the challenges, the opportunities, and the successes of our colleagues across the country. I would encourage all of you to look into that and to share your information, to participate when you're asked to do that. It makes the biggest difference. We're really working hard to create mentoring relationships for women in our industry. That is so important. As Dr. Nunnery showed in his study, that is critical. And even more important, I think, as we evolve our mentoring relationships, we need to sponsor women, and women need to sponsor women, and men need to sponsor women. Next slide. You will see in the beginning when we started this that women make up about 60% of the insurance industry, but we're not holding those higher level positions or earning the higher salaries. And all of our studies are starting to show that. As of 16, women in insurance earned about 62 cents on the dollar as compared to men. And I will tell you, it's not a whole lot better right now. only 8% of the insurance companies have formal programs to develop and promote women. I think that will change. The climate in our country, our social movements now are going to bring all of that to the forefront. We are looking to introduce the insurance industry to the millennials. As Barbara said, we're going to have a labor shortage. So we need to let people know what's happening in our industry and what opportunities are there. Next slide. I will tell you that in the beginning, when I first came into the industry, I didn't view it as a STEM industry, but I certainly see it now. It's crystal clear. And it is, as Dr. Nunnery said, a very lucrative industry. We recently did a study, and Barbara gave you some highlights of it, but we have this infographic talking about women in insurance. And as I said, in 16, we weren't doing all that well. And when we did this study more than a year ago now, we still see that we are underrepresented in executive roles. We're not earning those higher salaries as our males. We're not moving through the management ranks as quickly. And not many organizations have particular goals, and those that do don't necessarily publish their progress towards their goals. And we're looking to change that. We're seeing that women get into the insurance industry and they stay there. They're very loyal to their companies. And that's really important, but if you're going to be that loyal, you probably ought to be thinking about your career path, and what you want out of your career. And we'd like to see more women moving forward and upward. I think that women tend to occupy those lower corporate level positions. I'm not sure if they don't have the mentors to help them get there, or they don't have a sponsor to help them get there. But we are going to work diligently to change that. As we've all noted, insurance is an essential business. It's a very large business. It's a needed business. And frankly, insurance is a very sexy business, and we need to tell people that it's a sexy business and we want you in it. So Margaret, let me bring it back to you.
Thank you, Catherine, and thank you for the wrap up and the call to action. I couldn't end this session without saying a big thank you to our 2020 consortium members. You are making it happen, and we need you, and I invite you all to join us. We need your networking, we need your support, we need your amplification as we really advance STEM careers in insurance. This is our time, and we are doing it with focus, with attention. We're doing it virtually, and we're making the insurance industry sexy, as Catherine said. So next slide, please. This is a way for you to connect with us going forward. Please join us. Please learn more. Please share, network with us. We are learning and listening allies, and we applaud all of you. Thank you so much, Alexa, and thank you to STEM Connector for this great session today.
Thank you so much, Margaret, and thank you for everyone who presented today. So what's next for Million Women Mentors? I'll just wrap this up quickly with some upcoming dates. Next Thursday, STEM Connector will be hosting a Veterans Day Twitter chat. If you're interested, we're gonna have some great people participating, and please just log on and look for the handle #BeyondTheBuzzChat. We'll include that in the follow-up email, as well as It's Time to Be Counted. You've seen in a lot of our emails and STEM Daily that we need to know what's going on. If you've mentored, please share with us so we can share all of that. As well, in STEM Daily, we're putting out a survey to kind of change the look and feel. So please, if you have any suggestions for us, take that survey, and we'd love to hear it. And finally, just what everyone has said, what can you do? Everyone has shared some really great examples. So please continue to find a way to connect in your community for women and girls through virtual and safe channels, and share them with us. I would love to put them in the newsletter. We'd love to share them STEM Daily, all of our social networks. And thank you so much. Again, this will be posted on our YouTube channel, and we will send out a following email with information, all of the slides, and anything else. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you for tuning in.